Good afternoon. I'm Chris Scher, Member Communications Director of the Society of Broadcast Engineers and the host of this month's episode of the SBE WEBxtra, the SBE chapter of the web. This is a monthly SBE meeting usually held on the third Monday of the month. The SBE is the Association for Broadcast and Multimedia Technology Professionals with more than 4,500 members, mostly in the U.S., but also around the world. Today we're going to discuss all things related to SBE certification. But first, here is your SBE member update for May 20th, 2024. The SBE is celebrating 60 years this year. One of the ways this milestone is being marked is through a project from the Program of Certification called the Diamond Project. We're going to learn a lot about this today. If you held SBE certification and let it lapse before 2023, you can apply to reobtain your SBE certification without taking the exam. There's a special application and fee structure for this. Get all the details at sbe.org/Diamond Project. SBE certification has career benefits, so take advantage of this offer if you qualify. The Network Analyzer is the topic of the next webinars by SBE on May 23rd. Greg Buchwald of Motorola will discuss the basics of network analysis, the available equipment, what information can be provided from their use, and more. You can always access the entire library of webinars by SBE presentations on demand. For more information on these and all the webinars by SBE, go to sbe.org/webinars. The SBE has some NS workshops being planned around the country. There are 2 in June in Quincy, Illinois and Syracuse, New York. Later in the year, workshops will be presented in Jekyll Island, Georgia and Wichita, Kansas. Get details on these and how your chapter can host an SBE NS workshop at sbe.org/NS-workshops. The next local chapter exam window for SBE certification is in June. The application deadline for those exams is now closed, but you can apply for the exam window to be held in August. Apply by June 14th. If you don't want to wait, or if a local chapter exam is not convenient for you, private proctoring is available. More information on SBE certification is online at sbe.org/certification. And that's your SBE member update for May 20th, 2024. So the SBE Program of Certification was authorized by the SBE Board of Directors in 1975. And while the origins of the program started with individual licensing from the FCC, SBE certification has grown to be the benchmark of technical qualifications among broadcast engineers and multimedia technology professionals. Certifications exist to cover a wide range of expertise, from radio board operators and TV master control operators to those who have worked in the field for 20 years or more. Certification levels cover RF, audio, video, IT and IP, production, and there are specialist certifications for digital radio, ATSC 3.0, and AM directional technology. Our guest today has chaired the SBE Certification Committee for many years and has been a member of the committee even longer. He's also served on the National Board of Directors and held the office of SBE President from 2011 to 2013. Ralph Hogan is our guest today. So hi, Ralph. Welcome to the SBE Webxtra. How are you?
Great. How are you today, Chris?
Just fine. So you and I both have a history with the certification program. I was a member of the committee and a past chair, as you're currently the chair. So you and I both know a lot about SBE certification, but I thought it'd be a good chance for us to talk to the membership and fill them in on perhaps some of the things that they might not know about SBE certification, including some of the current projects that are underway. But before we jump into that, tell us a little bit about yourself, like what's your day job, how you got involved with the SBE, and some of that information.
Okay. Well, my day job is volunteering, pretty much. I retired from my former day job at Rio Salado College in 2022. So my time now is taken up mostly with volunteering. I volunteer for a number of organizations. The SBE is one of them, but also the Institute of Electrical and Electronic Engineers, IEEE, Broadcast Technology Society, and also the Association of Public Radio Engineers. So I spend a fair amount of time weekly attending meetings and working on strategy. Since I've been president of both IEEE BTS and SBE, I am involved with the executive committee and a lot of the planning and strategic work that goes on with with other organizations. And I've just been reelected to the APRE, Associated Public Radio Engineers Board of Directors in April. So keeps me quite busy.
Very good. That does keep you busy indeed. I know that from just talking to you over the years, especially. So tell us, how did you get involved in the SBE in the first place, and then how did you get involved in the certification committee specifically?
Well, I grew up in New Orleans, and I was working there for a good portion of my life. At the time that I was in New Orleans, it was not a huge active chapter, SBE chapter back in those days. That would be the early 70s. But I moved to Idaho, changing jobs, and they were just starting an active chapter in Idaho. So I joined that chapter as I moved. So I got involved with SBE basically when I changed jobs, and that's really where it got started. So I've been active with the SBE ever since. I held all the positions within the local chapter organization, and I have held all the positions within SBE itself, being on the board, also all the officer positions with SBE. So I have, as you said, quite a long history with SBE.
You probably got involved in the SBE kind of like I did. There was somebody in the market you moved to who was active in the chapter or at some level and said, "Hey, why don't you come join me at a chapter meeting?" So I think a lot of us have a similar story in that regard. So refresh my memory. When did you become chair of the SBE Certification Committee?
I became chair in 2013, about going on 11 years now.
Yep.
I've been chair of the certification committee. We've seen a lot of changes during that period of time. I followed Jim Bernier's tenure as certification chair. He was trying to step down from some of his work with SBE because he was looking towards retirement, and he thought it was time to hand over the reins to somebody else. So he stepped down. I stepped into that position. So that's how I got started, but it's been since 2013.
Sure. Great. So in general, I think the overall idea of the SBE certification program is known well enough. It's a benchmark to establish skills and to show others you know what you're doing in the industry. I'm sure you get a lot of questions about certification, as do I. If you had to pick one or two things about the certification program that people don't necessarily know, or a common question, or maybe that little secret type thing, what would you tell them? What's the best kept secret about SBE certification?
I think most of our secrets are out, actually. But one thing that we did change that people are still finding out, especially those who have been involved with the program or with SBE for a long period of time, is that way back when we encourage people to bring in as many resources as they wanted to bring into the exam period. And people come in with stacks of books and reference materials. We did some beta testing and some surveys with utilizing the internet as that became more pervasive in the industry. And the goal is to check people's competencies of their work profession. So being able to look something up in a book or memorizing formulas, it was okay back when we started, but now most people, when they need to find the answer to a problem, they go to the internet. So we've changed over where people can utilize the internet now. But when we did the testing to check whether that was something that we really wanted to do, the committee found that those people who didn't really understand the question or didn't know the question, the internet did not really help them. So the scores turned out to be relatively close, whether someone brought in reference materials or whether they used the internet. So that's kind of how we changed over to the internet. But a lot of people still think that they need to have the reference materials. The downside of the internet situation is that SBE and the certification committee does not guarantee connectivity to the internet. So when someone takes their exam, if they're in a location where they don't have a data plan or they don't have good internet connection, then the internet may not help them. So that's kind of a little known fact that the internet is pretty much a major portion of when someone takes their exam nowadays. It's available if someone wants to use it.
Absolutely. And kind of touching on the theme there, it's the certification exams gauge what you know and provide a benchmark of your skill, but it's long been held that you don't have to know everything, but it's just as important to know that you can get the answer, where to find the answer if you don't happen to know it by rote or in your own head on your own. So that's where the reference materials, whether it's a book or your own handwritten notes in some cases, or the internet, come in handy.
Certainly.
So I will touch on one thing. Some people seem to be a little confused at times that SBE certification is not take it once and you're done. You have to renew it every 5 years. Tell us a little bit about why we do that.
When someone takes a certification exam, we're testing their competencies of everything they've learned up to the point that they're taking the exam. But technology, as we all know, technology is moving very quickly, and there's changes both if you're in the broadcast arena with the FCC, so the rules change, and the individual who holds a certification needs to keep current on the evolving technologies and rules and regulations. So that is the reason why we have a 5-year renewal process for the certification, because we want to ensure that an individual has kept up with the technology changes and with the rule changes to make sure that they can offer their employer and themselves the best they can in the way of knowledge as they move forward in their career.
So I asked that question specifically to use as something of a lead-in to a current project being held by the SBE in the Program of Certification, and that is the Diamond Project, which ties into the fact that the SBE is now 60 years old, founded in 1964. So tell us a little bit about the Diamond Project and how that fits in with renewal and maintaining certification.
Well, if someone has been certified and they let their certification lapse, there's a chance to get it back. And that's the purpose of the Diamond Project. We started this in the beginning of January. The SBE Certification Committee, in recognition of the 60th anniversary, created an opportunity for those who have allowed their certification to lapse to become recertified once again. And you can do this without taking the exam. Normally, when your certification lapse, you have to retake your exam, but this allows you to get recertified without taking the exam. So the Diamond Project started January 1st, 2024, and it runs through December 31st, 2024. So if you had your certification lapse prior to January 1st, 2023, you qualify for this project. The applicants are required to complete the Diamond application, which is on the SBE website, and provide it with either a resume or a letter to the certification committee stating what he or she has done to within their job within broadcast engineering since the applicant's certification expired. So this allows us to check on the currency of the individual. All the SBE certifications are included in the reinstatement program, and that there's two prices that go along with that. One is to allow you to take and recertify at the level that you were previously at $1 amount, and the other is if you were a CPBE, you have a choice of either recertifying at the senior level that you had when you were became a CPBE, or you can renew as a CPBE itself, but that costs more money.
Gotcha. And all the information is online at sbe.org/Diamond Project. We'll flash that on the screen probably a couple of times as we go through this. Separate applications are there, and there's a fee structure involved as well. But all the information is online if there are additional details. And we'll go ahead and throw Megan under the bus. They can always call the national office, and Megan Clapp can provide some more information as well, I'm sure. So let's go back to the overall program of certification. There are a pool of questions in the database that are assigned to when someone applies to take an exam. And that question pool is how exams are created for a 50-question multiple choice exam. Tell us a little bit about the life of a question. How do they start? How do they get finalized? And so on.
Well, the exam questions actually start when we develop a new exam or a new certification. We have subject matter experts to help write the questions. We also have committee members who act as subject matter experts that write questions. And part of that process is that we don't just take a question at face value. We do testing. We send out sample tests. We get feedback. We review the question, make sure it's applicable to the level that of certification that is being applied to, and also that we ensure that we have enough confidence in the question that it's appropriate for the level that's being utilized. Now, once the question gets in the database, in the question pool, we periodically review, the committee periodically reviews the questions to ensure that they're current. And as we mentioned previously, the technology is continually moving and the FCC rules change. So as those two areas are continually changing, we have to take and review the question pool to make sure that our questions remain current and relative to the industry. So that is a point where we take and either remove questions from the database or rewrite them to make them current with the current technology and rules. And at some point, as the technology moves on and the original question is no longer applicable in the industry as a knowledge factor that needs to be current, we retire those questions. So that's kind of how we start from the beginning with the new certifications, and we'll ultimately at some point, not all questions are retired, but a large number of questions are retired. We had that happen a couple of times, and one that comes to mind is as the rules changed from analog television to digital television, all those analog TV questions needed to be retired because that was no longer applicable in the digital environment.
Yep. Yep. And once a question is created, it could be created for a specific certification level, but that's not necessarily the end of that question. That question may be used across the board in other levels of certification as well, correct?
Yes, some of the questions are applicable in a number of different certification levels. So instead of creating a unique question pool for each certification, we have some questions that are applicable to multiple certifications. And that just goes into the pool where the 50 questions, where the exams are generated, are drawn from. So we allow a question to be moved pretty much seamlessly to the user. But if someone takes a number of certifications over time, they may see the same question because it's applicable to more than one certification.
Mm-hmm. Sure. And we can even note that, I mean, there are more than 50 questions available for any given level of certification in most cases. So even though you're only seeing 50 on an exam, there could be 75, 100 or more that actually could be posed to the exam taker. So that also changes as time goes on. If you were to take a written exam 2 years ago and then take it again today, you could see a completely different question mix. Maybe one or two look like they're familiar in some way. But it's more than just 50 and done, even on an individual level.
That is true. The exam database is, as I said, was continually reviewed and updated. So questions do change, but there's more than a one-for-one relationship with the questions that appear on the exams versus what's in the pool. The pool is generally 3 to 5 times larger than the 50 questions that are drawn from.
Yep. So how about exam preparation? Obviously, we get that question a lot, I'm sure. How do I study for the exam? So the first question is, what do you tell someone when they ask, how do I study for the exam? What's your reply to that?
Well, it really depends on the exam that they're applying for. Those that go for exams in the higher levels, the question actually pertain more to management and safety and station operations, where the lower levels are more of the technical questions that you need, just basic things that you need to know to do your job. So it varies depending on the certification. Generally, the individual, since these are practical questions based upon your knowledge of the job and your work environment, some of these things you just can't really study for. It's based upon life experiences. So my recommendation usually is to review the basics, or at least be able to know where to go find the answers to the basics, and then rely on your experience and knowledge to take and fill in the rest.
Right. It's not exactly, except for the operator level certifications, it's not a read this book, then take the exam. The operator level exams are exactly that. It's a book dedicated strictly to the level to help with a TV master controller or radio board operator position. But the rest of the levels aren't necessarily read this, take the exam, and you're in. And as you noted, some people seem a little surprised that it's not necessarily a straight rote read this. There are life experience elements. I say life experience, career experience, being familiar with a couple of things and sort of putting them together to come to the correct answer. Do you agree with
that? Certainly.
Yeah.
And that's what makes for a well-rounded individual in their profession, is to not only have the book knowledge, but also have the knowledge and experience to take and react to different situations.
So as far as a sample tests preparation goes, the SBE has something called SBE CertPreview. Tell us about CertPreview.
Well, our current CertPreview is a hard exam document that we have to load on computers. And the downside of that program actually started off in the DOS realm on floppy disk.
Well, it started on paper, actually, but yeah.
Well, true. I try to forget the paper part.
We try to forget that, yeah.
But we went to DVDs, and we have applications that basically people loaded on their computers, and that caused problems because if you had a application was written for a Windows machine, then you had problems in the Mac environment and vice versa. So there was a lot of questions and troubleshooting that went on, trying to make sure that depending on the computer, age of the computer you had too, had a lot to do with it. So the certification committee and the certification director had a lot of angst trying to make sure that the CertPreview worked for people. Didn't work for everyone, but I think in most of the cases we got it to operate. What we have done now, or in the process of doing, is that our next iteration of CertPreview is going to be a web-based environment. So it will be agnostic to no matter what type of platform you have. And also because it's going to be database driven through the web, as we make changes to the CertPreview environment, and the changes can be updated almost instantaneously. So as with most things, our clients or our people who are using the program find errors or find things that are not clear. We make changes, but under the current situation, it takes a long time, or sometimes we just can't make the updates. With the web environment, that will be a thing of the past. We'll be able to make the changes, make the updates, and keep the program current. So that's kind of the big difference in where we are today and where we are going to be in the future. Our program was really supposed to be completed about a year and a half ago, but we've run into a little bit of problems with our developer. Not anything that is insurmountable, but it just takes some time to get those things worked out with our developer. So we're hopefully going to have this changed by the end of the year, and we'll have a new CertPreview program. We're planning on having a new look for the new CertPreview. We haven't come up with what that's going to be yet, but I think since this is going to be a major step upgrade to the program, we want to make sure that people when they see it, they know it's something new and something different.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So tell me about the question pool that's used in CertPreview. It's not the exact same question pool as an actual certification exam, but it is related. Yes?
That is correct. What we've been trying to do, and we haven't totally succeeded yet, is that when we develop new questions for the exam database, we also create a CertPreview, or try to create a CertPreview question, which is of similar nature and utilizes the same reference material. So you get a flavor of what the actual exam question may be when you take the exam. So the CertPreview questions are similar, but not the same as the database questions. And then in a number of cases, since some of this is legacy, it may have nothing to do with what's in our current database for the actual exams.
Right. And so just as the exam pool for, we don't have a real term, the real exam, those questions are reviewed periodically. Similarly, if something is retired from the real question pool, it can be retired from the CertPreview question pool, which again is where the new web-based version has the advantage. Those changes can be near instantaneous as opposed to, oh, sorry, we got to get you a new version now because we retired, how to use a splicing block or something like that.
It's going to be a whole lot easier to keep things current, and also to ensure that those who want to utilize the CertPreview, they have a program that is current and fresh, and not something that was done X number of years previously and not been updated because of the challenges of doing the updates.
Right. So at the NAB show, during the membership meeting, you touched on the fact that there's a new SBE certification level that's in the works. What can you tell us about that?
Well, we have a new certification level of production technologist. It's basically dealing with audio and video. It's designed for entry level and those people who are not really involved with RF or FCC rules. So those types of questions are not in their question database, but it will allow us to utilize some of these, as we discussed, shared questions from other exams to be put into that pool, and new questions are also being developed for this new certification. So it will allow us to kind of broaden our scope as far as individuals who want to get a entry-level certification with SBE, and it allows them to be at a technologist level, which doesn't require a full engineering level. So the questions are more of a general nature, but it's still specific to audio and video technologies.
And how will this differ from the existing certified audio engineer or certified video engineer?
The engineer level certifications require 5 years experience, where the technologist level doesn't require 5 years experience. So you can come in if you worked in the industry, or you just have some knowledge of video and audio and want to become certified. This is a way to get that initial level of certification,
Right.
Without experience, without a job experience level component attached to it.
Speaking of experience level, so there are some levels that have no experience requirement. There are some that have 5, 10, or a 20-year experience requirement. Tell us a little bit more about that experience requirement, and how does college education fit into that formula?
The experience requirement is basically geared, or actually tied to the question pool, where when an individual has experience doing a particular job within their profession, we expect that they have gained certain types of experiences through their work. And that's why at the engineer level, we require 5 years of experience. At the senior level, it's 10 years. And at the CPBE, the certified professional broadcast engineer level, it's 20 years. So as I indicated earlier, the questions, as you become more senior in the certifications, the questions become more managerial, because generally the more time that you've worked in the industry, the more senior your job and the more responsibilities you have as a director of engineering, chief engineer, or corporate engineer. So those responsibilities are reflected back into the questions that are appropriate for the higher level experience.
And time in college. So if you have a 4-year degree, how does that fit in?
Well, if you have a 4-year degree, that counts as part of the time. But as most everyone knows that who has gone to college knows that what you learn in college is not necessarily relative to the real world. That's more the book learning portion that you learn about the basics and the technologies, but it doesn't really give you any experience. So it does have credit, or it's given credit as far as the time for a certification, but also be wary that what you get in college may not be as applicable as someone who has actually worked in the industry for those 5 or 10 years.
Right. And again, it applies in the 5 or 10-year levels, but not for the CPBE and the 20-year. That has to be pure professional career experience. Yep. Good. Just thought I'd touch on that real quick. We had mentioned earlier the Diamond Project, which kind of fits into the whole recertification and the 5-year plan. We haven't even touched on the whole how does one recertify. We should probably touch on that a little bit just to get some foundation behind that. So there are a couple of ways you can renew your certification at 5 years. What do you suggest? How should people do this?
Well, the recommended way, which most people do not follow, is that immediately upon certification, you start documenting your training and knowledge and experience for recertification for that 5-year period. The SBE has a number of different categories that you can choose from, and as you're going through the recertification period, you should be documenting these and not waiting till the end of 5 years and then trying to go back and figure out what you had done. But there's a number of ways that people can get with those points that are assigned for different levels of certification. The training that factories and industry offer, a lot of times you may see that it has in their promotion for their training has recertification credit, a half a point for or more, depending on the type of training that's conducted. So you can take advantage of that. Factory schools are certainly always a big plus for someone learning more about a particular type of piece of hardware or software. And also, as you become more senior, there's points that are generated for being a manager within your organization, articles that you may write for publication, and being active in your SBE local chapter. So there's a number of different categories, and I don't remember, Chris, if you happen to remember the total number of categories, but you have to be, I think it's for the categories you have to have points in to recertify at the end of the 5 years.
The 5-year certification levels require 20 recertification points. The 10-year certification levels require 25 recertification points, and the CPBE requires 30 recertification points.
If you're active in doing things and doing training, then it's usually relatively easy to achieve that over a 5-year period. The big challenge, like I said, is most people don't document it as they go along, and they have to go back and try and figure out what they did and the time frame, because it has to be documented for those points to count.
Right. Yeah, and you can track it. There are a number of ways on the website. You can download an Excel file that helps you track it on the SBE website in the member profile section. You can track your points there and then download them later. So there are a variety of ways you can track it or just do it on your own, even on a piece of paper. In fact, viewing the SBE Webxtra got you half a credit in category G. It was just like attending a chapter meeting. So there are plenty of ways to earn the points and to score them and then to submit when the 5 years comes up. Anything else that we haven't talked about on certification you think we should cover?
Actually, there is something. Our committee is fairly stable, but and our committee has members who have a long lineage with the committee. But we're starting to find that some of the committee members are starting to want to retire, and that's going to create some holes for us in the future. And one of the things that you may want to consider if you have an interest in education, training, and certification, to contact myself or contact Megan. And you need to be certified to be on the committee, especially at one of the elevated levels of certification, because you do get to see questions, and you do get to review questions and generate questions for the question pool. So there is a certain amount of security there that and background that we need to verify that an individual meets before they can become a member of the committee. But we certainly will be seeing some openings coming up. So anyone who might fit into that category, I think would be something we'd like to talk to you about.
Absolutely. That's good to know. We'll get Megan Clapp, SBE Certification Director. I'll include her information on the show notes for this as well when we post it to the SBE YouTube channel. So that's a pretty good overview of a lot of things happening with SBE certification. We got the Diamond Project. We've got a new CertPreview on the way. We've got a new certification level on the way. Touched on a lot of the mechanics and the policies of how the program works. I'll throw one more time. Any other things we haven't touched on you think we should address at this point?
It probably is, but I can't think of anything at the moment.
Well, I think we've done our jobs then. We'll call it good. Well, once again, Ralph, thanks for joining us on the SBE Webxtra. It's always good to talk to you, and I'm glad we had a chance to talk about some of the things happening with the program of certification, some of the new things coming up, and even explain some of the existing things that have been a part of the program since it was established back in 1975. So once again, continue the good work, and appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you, Chris.
The SBE Program of Certification continues to grow and evolve, and just like individual certification has to be renewed regularly, the program itself sees ongoing regular renewal. If you're not SBE certified, I hope you'll consider obtaining it. Surveys have shown that those who hold SBE certification tend to earn more than those who do not. It's not a guarantee, of course, but it shows you're taking an active role in furthering your skills and your career. This has been the SBE Webxtra, the SBE chapter of the web. We present it monthly, and we hope you'll join us each time. Look for the replay on our YouTube channel. If you hold SBE certification, viewing the SBE Webxtra qualifies you for 1/2 point in category G, that's attendance. It's just like attending a local chapter meeting. If you have an idea for a topic or a guest for the SBE Webxtra, send it to webextra@sbe.org. And that does it for this installment of the SBE Webxtra from the Society of Broadcast Engineers, the Association for Broadcast and Multimedia Technology Professionals. Thanks once again to our guest, Ralph Hogan, and we'll see you next month.